Father, I just want to thank you so much for Butch and for all the work that he is doing and for the journey that he had that he is going to share with us. That, Lord, we are all a family. This is a fellowship. This is your design. We see you through each other. And so right now, Butch is going to share his testimony and really be able to reach out and help you. And it's important, Father, that you inspire everybody here to share his testimony with all the people they come in contact with, because that is how your word works, and that is part of our commission, to bring people to you. So I thank you for that. In Jesus' holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
And I'm going to tell you that, with drug and alcohol addiction issues in this community, last week I went to go see Daniel Baldwin, who was speaking at the G. Ray Bodley High School. Emilio and I went and we got to talk to him. There's a lot happening. It's important that we're all plugged into this. This is our community, right? So with that, there you go.
Thank you. Is this loud? My name is Butch, and I introduce myself as an alcoholic. My recovery date is November 23rd, 1977. So I've celebrated 41 years in recovery recently, this past year, and it was a long and winding road. Okay. I think that where I like to start with my story always is as a youth. When I was around, I had a normal, childhood. I had two sisters at home, my mother and father, and then when I was about 6 years old, my mother and father got divorced, and that was devastating for me, because what happened with my family was my mother was from the New York City area, which is where I was born, Astoria, Queens, and once they got divorced, my family split. My favorite sister and my mother went back to New York, and I stayed in Syracuse with my older sister and my father. But my older sister was an age where she was only in the home for a few years, and then she met a guy and got married and moved out. And I got to tell you that the effects of that divorce were tremendous on me, and I never really recognized that. I knew that I felt like I had a hole in my soul. And one part of that I think I understand today is that I was blaming myself for my parents' divorce, or my part in my parents' divorce. I couldn't understand that. But I also lived in an Italian and Irish Roman Catholic neighborhood, and for whatever reason, parents of my friends thought that I was going to be a problematic kid because I didn't have a mother at home. Okay? Nobody where I lived was divorced. No one. I was the only kid I ever knew that had a divorce when I was that age. Okay? Consequently, what happened is some of the parents denied me access to my friends. They did not want their children to play with me, and I was not invited to their homes. And the kind of a neighborhood that I lived in, we never locked the doors, not ever. Okay, we went away on vacation and didn't lock the doors in our house. It's a little different than that today. Okay, but it was that kind of. I felt really poorly about myself. I blame myself for those kind of things. I didn't know any better. I got to be a little older, I started to build this crusty outer exterior of this person who has it all together, who really inside feels terrible about themselves. Okay? So I believe that people in general have a tendency to do that. I think that everyone has a me that I want you to think I am, me that I am, and me that I'd like you to think I am. Okay? So, and then the real me. Okay? So the real me, I really felt bad about myself. I walked around like I was, cock of the walk. I was a bigger kid. I was big for my age at that time. I was a good athlete. I excelled in sports all the way through high school. I think that my saving grace at the time was sports, because it kept me from being involved in things that other kids did, you know, around the block, like breaking into the schools and doing damage and stuff. I just didn't go with those kids, you know. I wanted to be above that, and I know that some of that was because of the way I was treated by their parents. You know, I was able to say to myself, you see, I'm going to be the bad kid, but your kid's the one that broke into the school. Your kid is the one that did the damage. Your kid is the one that's drunk at 15, okay? That isn't me, okay? I'm the special kind of guy. Well, really, I didn't feel that way about myself, but that's the way I presented myself. I had a completely false exterior, and I was like that all the way through my teens. And all the kids in my neighborhood that were guys, young guys, we had a bar in our neighborhood called Schotthafers, and if you could reach the bar, he would serve you, okay? And all my friends went there and drank underage. I did not do that. I didn't see myself in that view, and I didn't want anybody else to see me that way either, okay? However, in my day, you could drink when you were 18, and when I got to be 18 and I could go to the bar legally, I did. And when I found alcohol, my life really changed, okay? Alcohol really, really changed my life. All of those insecure feelings that I had about myself went away. Okay? They made me taller, smarter, handsomer, full head of hair. Gave me all of these things that really I didn't know. Okay? But there was a time in my life when I engaged in alcohol normally, like a lot of people can, okay? But I'm not one of them, okay? Once I found alcohol, and alcohol did those things for me, I would always get myself in a place where I did not stop, and I didn't stop because I couldn't stop. But I didn't recognize the fact that I couldn't stop. So I would say that around 25 or 26, I met a girl, I got married, we had a couple of daughters, and all through that time my drinking just continually increased and increased. I had a little bit of an education. I went briefly to college for a couple of years. I was able to get a decent job with PNC Foods, if anybody remembers them. I sold institutional food. One of my accounts was Oswego College. I had a decent job, but I also always partied, and I partied really hard, okay? So there were some things that happened during my life in my first marriage that I don't even remember, okay? And I will tell you about some of that as I get later down the road, okay? Anyhow, my wife finally had enough of me and enough of my antics. I got arrested. I couldn't tell you how many times. I can tell you this, I probably should have been arrested 100 times. I'm worried about the times that I got caught drinking and had a DWI, or got stopped and got taken home by the police, or they take my keys and leave me laying in the back seat and come back when they got off shift and give me my keys back, okay? Or they would take me home, knock on the door, push me in the door when my wife opened the door, okay? I'm really lucky that I got what I got instead of getting what I deserved. I mean, I'm really fortunate at that, and I don't know how I lived through that, but I did. Somehow I did, okay? So I went to a rehab, and the rehab I went to was called the Syracuse Behavioral Center, and at the time it was open on a grant. It was an experiment. It was brand new, And my probation officer said, you know what, I don't know what to do with you, but there's a new program and I'm going to try it, because if it doesn't work for you, you're going to prison. So I went to SBH, and long story short, I got sober. Okay? And I stayed sober because I went to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, which were right down the street from the rehab, and I did that for a few years. And then life happened. I met another girl, I had another child, I got a new job, a new car, a new wife, a new house. I had all of those things going, and I thought I was in charge of life again. And so I drank again. And in a period of maybe 4 years, I think it was, I lost it all. That wife had enough too, took my son and left. And I had the two daughters that I am going to have dinner with today, as a matter of fact, remained with their mother here in Syracuse, and I did see them on weekends, but I was disallowed to see them until I got some kind of treatment. And I just was lost in drinking. I couldn't stop. And I lost the new house, the new car, the new family, the new job. I lost it all. And I ended up in a place called the Rescue Mission. Well, the Rescue Mission is a place where they have a detox of sorts, at least at that time they did. You could go in there. They had some fellows who were native Indians from India. That's who really ran their detox. I don't know how that happened, but it was their calling in life, okay? And they were like nurses, more or less, and they would, if you went there, they'd take your blood pressure, they would help you detox, they'd give you a bed. And I spent, I think, 3 weeks in the detox at the Rescue Mission, in a bed, in a room. There was a ward. It must have had 100 beds in there. People would come and go, and for the first 2 weeks I was there, all I could keep in my stomach was Maalox. I don't know if any of you have had the pleasure of Maalox. Maalox is horrible, okay?
Yeah.
But about once every couple of hours, they'd come and give me 1 ounce of Maalox, and eventually, it took me 3 days to hold down water. That's how bad I was. I mean, I was really, really sick, okay? Sick to the point that I prayed I would die, and I hoped that I wouldn't, okay? I was afraid that I was going to die, and from that day on, I never had a drink of alcohol again in my life, okay? So while I was in the Rescue Mission, there was a gentleman there. It's probably similar to some of the services that you have right here at Victory Center, only that just happened to be for all males. Okay, and the Rescue Mission still exists today. It's quite large. They have these clothing stores. You see them all over the place. His name was Clarence Jordan. Clarence Jordan was my angel. Clarence Jordan helped me to see the light. And when I say see the light is this. You know, I grew up with a God in my life because my parents wanted me to have one. I went to Sunday school. I listened to the stories of Jesus Christ and the disciples and the Bible, but I didn't really believe any of that stuff. I really didn't. I thought I made all the decisions in my life, and I was in control of my life, and I was supposed to be, and therefore, everything that happened, I made happen. Okay. Well, Clarence said to me, you need a place to stay, don't you? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, well, you can stay here. And I said, what do I have to do to stay here? And he said, you have to come to chapel at night. And you have to sing hymns with us. You know, and I like music, but if there's anything I did not have any intention of doing was going to chapel and singing hymns, I can tell you. Okay? But he took me to the chapel in the mission that night And the very first song that they sang was Amazing Grace. Okay? To this day, if I hear Amazing Grace, I get a lump in my throat. Because that became very, very special to me, because I'm a wretch that was saved. Okay? And I was saved by my God. Now, you know, I work in a rehab facility which is funded by state money. So there is a necessary division between church and state. When I talk about Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't ordinarily talk about God, but I have, in my older age, come to use God as totally part of my story. And I mean, I don't use it as a counselor because I'm not supposed to, but you know, that's not the truth. The truth is, it's God that saved me, and He made Alcoholics Anonymous as a tool to help save me. But I was not able to see that until I was able to see it. Okay? So recovery is a process. It takes a long time. And what's necessary in recovery is this. Addiction, I talked to Gabe earlier. Addiction is addiction. We agree on that. Okay, I think that gambling and heroin use and shopping addictions and gambling all is one thing. It's a behavior. It's a behavior that does not work, and it is driven by our thought process. So in order for us to be able to make a change, we have to change how we think. Well, that takes a long time, okay? And it takes a blessing from your higher power, absolutely. Because if you are used to thinking in a certain way in order to get what it is you want, that's what drives us all. What drives us is what we need in life, okay? If you have a way to get things called manipulation is what we're able to do. We're able to manipulate people to get what we want, and then what we end up doing is we commit crime against the very people that are helping us. And when I say crime, I mean we commit acts of unreasonable selfishness. Okay, we don't take somebody else's, what's going on, we don't consider our behavior and how it affects another person. And what I've learned in recovery is, that's what recovery is about. Recovery is about how am I going to help somebody else? What is my life going to be all about? Okay? Well, back to my story. Because I had gone through 2 divorces, I decided, you know what, maybe I'm just not supposed to be in a relationship, and so I wasn't. I won't say that I didn't have some lady friends, because I did. I wouldn't say that I didn't engage in some of the things that make relationships pleasurable, because I did, but I never had a commitment. I would not make a commitment because I did not believe I could keep one. Alcoholics Anonymous helped me to change that. Alcoholics Anonymous taught me to just do the next right thing. Can't tell you how many times in my life I thought to myself, I don't know what the next right thing is. So I'd call somebody, or I'd talk to my sponsor, and they would say, just don't do what you used to do, Butch, and then you did the next right thing. And they hang up the phone. And that really was the answer for me. You know, just don't do what I used to do. Don't think the way I used to think. Well, I can't tell you that my thinking has totally changed. I think that today, even today, with 41 years in recovery, if something were to happen where the price tag was big enough, my first thought is going to be, take care of Butch and the heck with everybody else. But what I've learned in Alcoholics Anonymous is, don't act on your first thought. Consider that. Discern. Stop and think about this. Come up with a rational decision, and then act. And until you come up with a rational decision, don't act. And that's been important in my life. It really has been important in my life. So I got into a business of my own. I had quite a large business. I had a firm that did construction and painting. I don't know how it happened, but well, I do know how it happened. God just put it in my way. I had relationships that came along with other people in my business that allowed me to paint entire housing complexes in other states. I went from state to state. I kept getting bigger and bigger. But I got to a place where I wasn't big enough to be really big, and I wasn't small enough to be really small. And so it was very difficult to make any money in that circumstance. And in the business that I was in, you need to have people when you need them, which isn't always. You don't always need them, okay? So what I did was, if wanted to keep people, I would keep them on the payroll. I would take a job that I didn't make any money at, just to, my employees made money and I didn't. I didn't make any money, So one night I was at an AA meeting and I had gone out for coffee afterwards. That is what I believe is recovery is about, is fellowship. That's what we're doing here today, okay? The only reason I didn't break bread with you today is because my partner surprised me by having my kids come over to my house after I leave here today for dinner, and I didn't know about that, so I was prepared to come here and share your food, but I can't do that. Fellowship is what it's all about. Other people is what it's all about. Addicts have a tendency in the greatest time of need to go away from people, which is exactly the opposite direction they need to be in. We need to go to people and towards people, especially when we're hurting, especially when we're in need. Do not isolate. Isolation leaves us only one thought, ours. How good are your thoughts? Where'd they get you so far? My best thinking got me here. Fortunately for me, Alcoholics Anonymous has worked in my life. In any event, my company it just wasn't working for me. So I went to dinner with this group of guys after an AA meeting, and one in particular, I had said to him 4 years before that, I said, we were out having coffee, and he said, I really want to go to school, but I'm 35 years old. In 4 years, it's just too much. So I said, well, Bob, how old are you going to be in 4 years? He said, well, I'm going to be 39. I said, well, yeah, you're going to be 39 with an education, you're going to be 39 without it. Okay? He went to school and he got himself a degree. And he became a person who was engaged in psychotherapy, that's also part of my story. I haven't gone there yet. Somehow in recovery, I had also recognized the fact that I really didn't know how to have a relationship, and I really wanted to be able to do that. I had this crust that I had put on the outside that you needed to think who I was, and I wore it all the time, whether people liked it or didn't like it, and I had no concern over that, okay? The only concern I had was making me look good, okay? Well, I was trying to change that in recovery, and I found out that there were some things in my life, including the fact that me blaming myself for my parents' divorce, which is totally ridiculous, but today it's totally ridiculous. At the time it happened, it was not totally ridiculous, and I wore it, okay? I went to see a movie. I get off on that things here. I went to see a movie recently. It was called 5 Feet Apart. And it was a story of two young people who had cystic fibrosis, who met each other in a recovery treatment center for cystic fibrosis, and they could not get closer than 5 feet to each other, or that for fear of spreading the other person's their germs, okay? And I'm not going to spoil the story for you, but I am going to tell you this. It made me recognize the importance of touch. And it affected me in a way I never expected. I didn't even want to go see that movie. I said, who wants to see a movie about cystic fibrosis? Okay? The way it affected me was this. I never recognized how important touch was until you didn't have any. And I didn't have any. I didn't have any touch. I didn't, you get touch from your moms. My dad was a great man. He was an excellent provider. He was a successful businessman. He didn't touch me ever. He never put his hand on me and said, I love you. My father never told me he loved me until just before he died. So when I saw that movie, I was overwhelmed with how important human touch is. Just laying on of the hand. Just your hand on somebody's shoulder to say, you know what, you're okay. You're going to be okay. I care about you. Putting your hand on top of someone else. Holding a hand during prayer. Touch, human touch, is so important, and so many of us have missed it in life. And I was one of them. And that's something that I found out here late in recovery. And I just saw a movie about it, and I recognized that I'm sitting there watching this movie that I didn't want to see, and tears are running down my face like a flood. Absolutely like a flood. And so I know something's going on with you, okay? So I talked to this friend of mine that I helped go to school by telling him he's going to be 39 in 4 years anyway. And he said, why don't you come in and have a session? That's, I was in psychotherapy for a fair amount of time, and there's a lot of things that treatment can't help. Only a relationship with God can help. And sometimes you need to have professional help in order to get at some of these underlying things that exist, okay? So, one of my daughters, I got out of my business, I sold my business, and I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. And that same fellow I went to coffee with, and he said, Butch, you've been in recovery a long time. You know a lot of people. I've been asked to speak a lot of places. I've done a lot of things in recovery. I've been involved as a GSR. I've been involved as a district rep. I declined to run for state representative because I just didn't have the time and the wherewithal to do that. And he said, you're so involved in recovery, why don't you do that? I said, well, because you got to have an education, and I don't have it. He said, how long will it take? I said, well, at least 2 years. He said, how old are you going to be in 2 years, Butch? Well, at the time, I think I was in my 60s. And long story short, I went to OCC, and I got a degree in drug and alcohol addiction, and I went to work at Cocoa. I don't know how I ended up in Cocoa. Cocoa is about, 40 miles from my house. I could have had a job in SBH around the corner, okay? But that wasn't my calling. My calling was to cope. I don't know why I came here, but I came here. And I developed this relationship here with the staff at Cocoa, and I developed a relationship with some of the recovering people in the community, and I come to understand that this is where God wanted me to be. Because it's about one of the last places I would ever pick to be honest with you. Okay? And I was in Fulton. I worked in Fulton for a long time, and I know that there's some difficulties and some poverty in Oswego, but Fulton is really bad. Fulton's really hurting place, okay? So, and I talked to Gabe about this too. What do we do about that? Well, we reinvent Oswego. We reinvent Fulton, okay? we do what we can do. That's the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, but the courage to change the things that I can. So what is it I can do? How can I help myself? How can I do this in a loving, caring, discerning way that doesn't hurt anybody else? What's my part in life? Where am I supposed to be? And those are the kind of thoughts that, coming to Cocoa has given me. I don't know if how good or how successful I was as a counselor, because honestly, we don't get to see that. The only thing we get to see is the failures. Okay? I don't get to see the people that made it. Yet over all the years, I would have from time to time somebody stop by the Fulton office or somebody stop by the Cocoa office over here in Oswego and ask for me and tell me, thanks to you, I've been sober for 15 years. Thanks to you, I've been sober for a year. Thanks to you, I've been sober for 6 months. And to be honest with you, I see so many faces over there, I don't always remember who they are. Okay? But it's rewarding to have that happen. It's not necessarily the rule, okay? But it's a kind of work that is God's work, and that's what I do, and that's the reason I do it. Now, I feel that I have this calling, and the calling that I have is I need to do this until I can't do it anymore. So I'm 77 years old, and I'm still working. Do not get me wrong. Do not misunderstand me. If they didn't pay me, I probably wouldn't do this. Okay?
Yeah, you would.
But I would do it on the basis of a recovering alcoholic, because I am extremely active in AA. After 40 years, I am still a member of good standing in Alcoholics Anonymous. Last night I went to a meeting at a place called the Vineyard Church. They had a completely sober band called Ponytail James, who is absolutely awesome. If you ever need music from somebody, they haven't been together long enough now to charge anybody anything, but they gladly attend and are part of functions that are for the benefit of others, because they're really good recovering people. If you have a cell phone and you want to see how awesome they are, just Google Ponytail James and play their video. They're really, really good, okay? They're all people who somehow, I can't believe this, I brought in recovery. All of them. One of them is my partner's son. And I wondered to myself, back to my story, am I ever going to be with anybody and care about them? And about 10 years ago, I have a cell phone. I don't know how to use it, but I got one. Okay. 10 years ago, I got a text on my cell phone. Said, "Hi, my name is Carlene, yada, yada, yada. How would you like, I haven't talked to you in a long time, how would you like to stop for a drink and catch up on old times?" And I knew who she was, okay? Because when I was a teenager, she was, a very sought-after young lady. She got married and was married 43 years. Her husband passed. She has a beautiful family. So I thought to myself, do I want to do this? So I said, look, I don't drink, but I'd be happy to meet you for coffee at Panera's. So I met her for Panera's on Route 31 for coffee. And this is something that I find humorous to myself. I pulled in the parking lot of Panera's, and I saw her get out of her car and walk toward the building, and I almost drove out of the parking lot, because the first thing that my head said to me, what are you going to do with her? She was beautiful, she was dressed well, she was driving a new car, and then there's me, okay? You know what, I'm okay. I'm really okay. But I still have those moments in time when I compare my exterior to somebody else's exterior and not my interior to their interior, because that's what makes us the same, okay? So I don't know why, but I parked the car and I got out and I met her, and well, 10 years later, we live together, okay? And she is absolutely the love of my life. And I had nothing to do with meeting her because we didn't have anything to catch up on. She wouldn't even have talked to me when I was in high school. Wouldn't even have talked to me. She happened to see me because on Facebook I had put a post on one of her girlfriend's entries because I grew up and was really good friends with her husband who passed. I put something on her post. Carlene saw the post, asked Marcia about me. She told her that, well, evidently she told her something good about me. And I got, she texted me, let's catch up on old times. I mean, I knew in my head, what old times? Okay, I'll meet you. It's funny how things happen in life, but you know what? There's no coincidences. There's just the way it's supposed to be. And back to my belief in this God that I didn't have, that belief in God that I did not have got stronger and stronger. In disbelief, the worse my life got. I kept thinking to myself, if there's a God, how's all this happening to me? Okay? Well, how about because you're doing this? How about that? How about you being responsible for you, Butch? And stop. Faith without work is dead. You got to do the footwork. God makes things available to you, and you need to do something about it. One of the things that I did this week is I went to a meeting, and Dawn was there. It was called Redemptive Compassion. Okay? And I love it because their values are totally in line with my values, and my values are not necessarily totally in line with the government's values, but I don't care about that. What I care about is what's right. How am I going to help you? That's what I care about. Okay? I'm beginning to see in my business where insurance companies totally control whether somebody can get public help or not as far as assistance with substance use and or any other addiction goes. What I'm also witnessing is the church is picking some up. Well, because I'm a God-fearing person, and because I feel that this is my calling, and because I pay attention to those things, I want to be involved with a faith-based community. And Oswego has an enormous faith-based community that is willing to help people in need. Enormous. So I want to be part of that. I mean, for me, I have to figure out how to fit that in, but that's my job. That's my work. Okay, that's God saying to me, okay, I made this available now, you do the footwork. You figure out how this is going to happen, okay? And I don't really know how it's going to happen, but I know I'm going to be part of it as long as I'm part of recovering in this community, because I know it's the right thing, and I know it's the right approach because it's faith-based. It's God and Jesus Christ. You may not believe today. I didn't believe, but today I believe. And what happened in my life was, I recognized one day all these wonderful, beautiful things I had in my life. And I said, how'd that happen? I didn't do anything to get that. God put them there. I had very little to do with all of the really good, wonderful things in my life. I just was there and I did the work. Don't ask me how I knew, because I can't tell you. I cannot tell you, okay? So in recovery, last year, I got another text on my phone. And the text said, "Hi, my name is Marla, so-and-so. I live in New Jersey, and I'm trying to get a hold of Butch Tolles. Are you Butch Tolles?" So I text back and said, "Yes, I am." And I thought it was one of those, I don't know, robocall or whatever, okay? So a sales pitch or something, so I text back, "Yes, I am." I got another text and it said, "I discovered Robert Foley, Mary Miller, and Patty Lepresti are my first cousins, and I wonder if I wonder if you can help me find my birth parents." So I read that, and I'm at times pretty swift, okay? And I knew what that was saying, okay? Because I only have one niece and nephew, not one niece and nephew, I only have family on one side, my sisters, and those three people were my sister's children, okay? So if you stop and make a quick deduction, you know what that's saying, right? Okay? So I said, this is crazy, so I didn't answer it. 2 days later, I got another text, almost exactly the same thing, okay? Only this one said, "I also found that I have a brother named Greg who lives in North Carolina and is a pilot for the family that owns the New York Giants football team." So I thought about that for a little while, and I said, you know what? I don't think I like this idea. So I didn't answer it again. And the next day, I got a call from my daughter here in Syracuse who said, "Dad, I got the craziest text last night. You'll never believe it." I said, "Oh yeah, I would." Okay? She said, isn't it strange? Isn't it the craziest thing you ever heard of?" And I said, "Yeah, it's kind of crazy, Meg," and I hung up from her, and I started to tell her, I was talking about that, and my partner was there while I was talking to my daughter on the phone, and I told her, "Yeah, I got the same text, and I don't know what it's all about, and yada, yada, yada." And I got off the phone, and she said, "What was that all about?" And so, I've discovered a few things about relationships. One of the things that I discovered that I feel is the most important is there can be no secrets in relationships. There can be no lies in relationships.
Right.
No matter how much the truth hurts, you must speak the truth. If it's truthful and it's going to hurt, you need to be discerning about how you're going to say it. Okay? So I told her, I said, "Well, I got this." I showed her a text. Okay? She said, "You know what this is saying?" I said, "Yeah, I know exactly what it's saying." So she said, "Good, here's your phone." She went to bed. And I sat in my easy chair, and I went to bed, and I could not sleep. And the next morning, I woke up, and I sat back in my easy chair, and the next thing I know, I got tears running down my face. And I sent this text out and said, "I think you're trying to tell me that I'm your father. Is that what it is you're saying?" And she said, "Yeah, and I've been waiting my whole life to meet you." So I want to tell you, that has an impact on your family when something like that happens, okay? But that is what's Ancestry DNA. They had sent their Ancestry DNA away. My daughter found my son my son and my daughter found me, and I, by all that's right in life, could not deny them. So I said, okay, I'll do a DNA test. Well, I did a DNA test, and it came back 99.6 percentage possibility of you being the parent on both. Okay? So, I owned it. I called them. They came. We met. I shared them with my daughters and son who live here. We have a family. It's difficult because they're long-range relationships. It's difficult because they can't be in my life every day and I can't be in theirs every day like I am the kids that live here. They have a life, and the one thing that I wanted to make sure that they did was never forget the parents that picked you out and raised you. That's your mom and dad. Okay? I'm your birth father. Okay. The horrible thing about it is that one of them, I don't remember the mother at all. Actually, two. There's another story. So I do not remember the mother at all. So anyway, we meet these people. We have a little family gathering. We're all together, and everything is great. And you know, there becomes a little bickering going on with the daughters that live here and the daughter that's away, and you know, that happens, and I can't be responsible for that, and I don't get in the middle of that. I don't try to fix everything for everybody. I used to try to do that. I don't have that kind of power. That power belongs to God. Okay? And they have their own God. So I'm totally aware of that because of recovery and because I work recovery on a regular basis. And so I just kind of stayed in the background and watched the whole thing going down, and they eventually figured out how to work it all out. And then one day I got another text from my daughter in Syracuse that said, "Dad, I got another match."
Oh,
Well, long story short, okay, I got another daughter, and she's an airline stewardess, and she lives in Tampa, Florida. Which is where I went on I guess this went down. I did it.
just died.
Maybe I did that. That's where I went on vacation this winter. I went to Disney, and then I went to Tampa, Florida to meet my daughter. If you saw my son, I could not deny my son. He is an absolute, total dead ringer for me. And this daughter is, I mean, I just talk to her, and I know she's my daughter. I just know it. You know, I don't know how, because I was never in her life at all. She didn't know who I was. I didn't know who she was. And I don't know who her mother is. So I have two women that I have children with that I do not remember, but I do remember his mother, and I liked his mother. I thought she was a nice person. I remember her well. While I was married, I worked. I ran a college bar for my father-in-law called the Big O up in Syracuse. It was the only bar around Syracuse University that wasn't on Marshall Street. It was a very successful place at the time. And in any event, she was a customer there, and I liked her, but I mean, as God is my witness, I don't remember ever having any kind of relationships with that person. However, that isn't what happened, is it? Because I did an ancestry DNA with her, and she came back 99.4. So thank God for recovery. Thank God for open-mindedness. Thank God for my ability to be able to share and care and welcome change in life. Because that's what life is about. Life is about accepting what is, not getting what we want. It's wanting what we get. Okay? And that was something that I initially did not want, but I know unequivocally that could not have happened in my life and would not have happened in my life were it not for my belief in God. I would have not accepted that at all. The first time I got a text, I would have sent back and said, "You're crazy, leave me alone, and see ya." I have friends who have said to me, friends who I look up to, who say to me, "Wow, what a guy you are." I said, what do you mean? He said, "Well, what you're doing is wonderful, accepting these people in your life." I said, "What? I didn't have any choice. This is God working in my life. It's God working in my life. I don't know what my place in life is supposed to be with them. I'm very grateful for the wonderful people that adopted these 3 children and raised them and gave them values and gave them education. They wouldn't have had that with me, probably. They probably wouldn't have had that with me. Okay? And I don't want them to ever forget that. But I am very grateful to know that they're my children and that they want to know me and be with me and care about me. And that, my friends, is sort of my story. A story about the importance of God and Jesus Christ in your life. Before I came here today, I stopped at my church. I'm a Roman Catholic. That doesn't matter, and don't hold that against me, okay? I have a very difficult time at times, with my religion, with some of the things that are going on. But I'm a believer. I'm a believer, and so I hang in there. Because I believe that the things that happen are meant to happen. And I know there's a reason. I know there's a reason. It's God's reason. I did the same thing at Cocoa. Cocoa went through an enormous change in the last couple of years. We had 5 different counselors and a new director over there. And a new director of treatment. So we've had 6 people leave, and it's, totally changed who I work with, okay? But I hang in there because I believe in the place. I believe they're trying to do the right thing, and I believe that God put me in that place so that I can help. I don't know how it is I'm supposed to help or what it is I'm supposed to do, but I live by this rule. I try to do the next right thing all the time. And it's never been a disservice to me to behave in that way. So I thank you for the opportunity to tell you my story today. God bless all of you. If you would, I would like to close in a prayer myself. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I might bring hope, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek to comfort rather than be comforted, to understand rather than to be understood, and to love rather than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that we are forgiven. It is by dying that we awaken to eternal life. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
time to go home.